I'd like to start off with visiting a little bit about where we are. We're in the Law Enforcement Center right now. That's because of construction going on at some of our city offices. But it's also a good place to be when we're talking about some of the violence that has been happening in the city of Topeka. I know that's on a lot of minds and conversations, but I want to draw your attention sometimes, as I do, to the city manager's weekly report. In that weekly report is a very good address to the community from our Chief of Police, Chief Bryan. I think he makes it very clear that he's very well aware of the concerns of the community and has responded, as he always has, in a very professional way. And that we're using every resource we can to do what we can, but we're asking for more and continued community support, and thank the community for the things they have done in helping the department meet these challenges in the community. Oftentimes, people wonder, well, what can I do as a community citizen to help fight crime? Well, what you see and what you tell the police department can be that one little piece of information that will help us solve the crimes that are occurring here in the city. So you can reach out through Crime Stoppers or through tellpd.org, I think is what the...
Tell TPD.
Tell TP?
TPD.
TPD, yeah. And that information will get to the department, and it'll be utilized and won't just sit there. Believe me, they act on every piece of information that the city gets from our citizens. So I want to thank them for their support and the efforts that we're doing to address the violence in our city. I also want to point out something about that same weekly report from the city manager, and that's why this is called the Mayor City Manager's Press Conference. In that report is a piece about our ARPA funds and how that $10 million that was designated to social programs was distributed here in the city of Topeka. There was a very concerted and focused effort to be very considerate of all the requests that were received by the city for those ARPA funds. Much of that was led by Councilman Spencer Duncan, who I think chaired that committee. But there was a podcast, I think it's Topeka Talk, is the podcast that's hosted by our Director of Communications, Gretchen Spiker, and co-hosted along with India Yarborough with the Greater Topeka Partnership. I would encourage you to look that podcast up wherever you get your podcasts, listen to it, because community wonders. We had $10 million. We talked about it for a long time, and how did it get dispersed in the city? I think this is a good way to keep yourself informed so you know that those dollars are being used in the most impactful way of the city. So I encourage you to take a look at that city manager's report online. It's very informative. I think it reminds me of how much work that city manager has to do in this community. And I think it's important for us to recognize the very different topics, issues, and projects that have to be handled from that office. So in recognition of that, with my city manager acting here right now, Richard Neinstedt, I'd like to let him speak to a topic that I know everybody is interested in, and that is our camping ordinance that the city has passed and where we are in the implementation of that ordinance. Deputy?
Thank you, Mayor. I think. So our camping ordinance technically goes into effect November 17th. And city staff, it is across departments, have been talking about how to implement it. The ordinance basically bans camping 500 feet from trails, levee trails, within 50 feet of a sidewalk, and a number of other areas. Recreational camping is still permitted, okay? It's still permitted. People should understand that. Property owners can camp on their own property. This came up for 10 days within a 6-month period. And right now, as I said, city staff are working on an implementation plan. We're getting feedback from the governing body. We're trying to reach out and get feedback from other agencies. Staff does that in different ways. We actually have other agencies calling us, and they're happy to give us their feedback. Once it's all decided, there will be a public education period about the new ordinance and what that means, how it will be enforced. That is a key discussion that I will have with the chief and his people, because they will be responsible for it. Amongst all the other things that our law enforcement is charged with, they'll be charged with this. And I'm going to digress a minute. This has been a tough several weeks for our law enforcement, for all of our public safety officials in this community. And it's been tough on them in a lot of different ways. But I'm telling you, the citizens of Topeka, you have good public service. You have good public safety individuals here looking out for your safety, for the community's safety. And what is really important for you to know is how compassionate they are. You read about these things that happen, but they live with them every day. I mean, they're right there on the scene. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're looking to our community partners to help collaborate, provide resources on the camping ordinance. And at this point, no changes have occurred related to enforcement. That's something we're going to have more of a discussion about. My guess is we're going to have a talk about the resources available, and we're going to talk about where the priority is. So, Mayor, that's where we're at.
Well, thank you, City Manager. I want to emphasize a couple things, and that is what we have on the books now in the way of a camping ordinance is enough to allow the officers in the police department to focus on those high priority areas that have been pointed out to us by the community. So it's not like we're sitting back and waiting. We have to understand that with the resources that we have available, there has been a great collaboration between the Topeka Police Department and the Shawnee County Sheriff's Department. Here just recently, they conducted a warrants service here in the city of Topeka that identified a number of people who they were able to take out of those camps because they had outstanding warrants, and so we could move them out of that population with still some focus on being able to provide resources for the rest of that population as well. So I want to commend the collaboration between two agencies. That's something that has really been a focus of not myself, but my entire staff, is to collaborate wherever we can. And remembering that Shawnee County and the Topeka Police Department are connected by common goals, and those goals can be achieved if we use our resources in an effective way. So I want to thank the Sheriff Hill, for being such a friend, not just to me, but to the community as well. I worked with him while I was here at the police department, as well as with Chief Wheelis, and believe me, I think he's committed to doing whatever he can in supporting the city of Topeka and Shawnee County. So I want to thank them for that. Also, I wanted to bring up something else that is also on that website again, and I keep talking about that because people wonder where they can get their information, and they get it from the news media, they get it from the city of Topeka, and I think city of Topeka does a very good job in trying to get that information out so that people aren't just wondering about what's going on. A big piece that's coming up right now too, with two upcoming meetings, is the consolidated action plan for the city of Topeka. It's important for people to look at this as an opportunity to hear how the funds that we have at the city of Topeka, how we're dispersing them so that we can meet the HUD guidelines and make them effective in the community with the efforts that we have focused by the community. So we have two meetings coming up. One is on November the 15th, and the other is November the 30th. And they're going to be at the new Mount Zion Missionary Church. And you can get that detailed information. I think it's held from 6 to 7 or 6 to 7:30. I'm not sure. Don't quote me, so check that information on the website. But I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity and the interest to find out how those funds are being utilized, to attend those meetings and participate in what those funds are. Often people ask, where are my tax dollars going? How are they being used? This is a way to find out. So I would encourage you all to take advantage of those 2 upcoming meetings. A couple of last things that I have are the trunk or treat. And we're down here at the Law Enforcement Center, and not far from us, just a couple blocks south, also down at Evergy Plaza, there will be a big trunk or treat tonight. The weather's cool to cold, so, and it's a safe place to be. You can keep an eye on your kids, get some treats for the holiday, and enjoy yourselves in the way we hope all Topekans can enjoy themselves. So I'm going to bring that up. The chief will probably be out there handing candy left and right. 1 for them, 2 for him, one of those kinds of things. So I encourage you to bring your kids down. And across the city, there are different trunk or treats being hosted by different entities. Take advantage of those. It gets the children out, gets them to have some fun, show their costumes, but be safe at the same time. So look out for everybody that's out there this evening. And the last thing I want to remind everybody of is that right now voting is going on for local offices. And the general election is on November the 7th. This is your opportunity. Oftentimes I hear people say, well, things will change, but we've got to make change happen. Change happens because of your participation in your community and participating in the vote. So I encourage everyone, don't wait till the last minute. Get out there, make your voice heard through that vote. And that's all I have for this morning's press conference. If there's anything that the city manager would like to add before we ask questions.
So I want to go back to violence and crime. Citizens are key to this. What a citizen sees, maybe they don't think it's important. But a lot of times our law enforcement need bits of that information to put together how to solve the crime. Talk to your neighbors. Be willing, a lot of people have cameras out there on their houses now. That's where a lot of, sometimes we're able to tell what goes on. But talk to your neighbors. Talk to them often. Keep each other up on what's going on in your neighborhood. And if you think there is something suspicious, give the Topeka Police Department a call so they can check it out. It's better to not have nothing and have reported it than to have something and not reported it. So, thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Mayor, the ordinance tells these people unsheltered where not to be. So where do you want them to be? Do you want them to be on the banks of the Kansas River, or what is it? They have to have a spot because we know they're out there. So where do you tell these people they should go then?
Where I want them to be is in a safe, warm place. And that's what we're working on. It's easy to hope for that. It's hard to work towards that. Not everyone wants the same thing. And so getting that message across is important, that this isn't a matter of just so much displacement, is still trying to find those resources that will help them live a better life and not have to resort to camping if not necessary. So some choose to be campers.
So because they choose it, where do you want them to be?
Well, as far as the location, in a safe place. And that's something that is relative to anyone. A safe place is my neighborhood, safe place is somebody else's neighborhood. So it's something that is taking a lot of time in the discussions that we have with our homeless task force that we have right now. They've interviewed a number of the residents and the population and other resource providers so that we can help find the best place to safely house people.
Still not, there's not a designated.
No.
Do you want them on the Kansas River banks? Would that be the best?
You know, I don't know that being out of the way of out of the way of everybody is the way I'd put it, Eric, because they are people, and we have to consider that, and we have to give them every consideration that we can. Where I want them to be, again, is in a place that's safe. I know that's not a location, but, you know, everybody struggles with that. There are a lot of suggestions, put them here, put them there. You got to ask them, do they want to be there? Do they want to be there? Does the rest of the community who will have that population moved want them there? It's a struggle that we have with the community, that every community has.
You guys go into the specifics of what the implementations of the ordinance would look like when it goes into place once they're ironed out?
Well, I'd like to tell you that I heard you, but you need to speak up louder, please.
Okay. You asked again?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Can you guys touch on what the specifics of the implementations of the ordinance would look like when they go into place?
Well, I think that's something that the city manager and the chief of police are working on right now to find out the step-by-step process that it will be implemented. It can't be a whole, across the city, this is what's going to happen. I think, again, as I said earlier, finding the focus of where the need is the most and having the available resources to address that need and working from there. I think that as we do that, people will recognize and appreciate that what we're trying to do is move in a way that isn't disruptive, so that we don't create more problems while we're trying to find solutions. You always have unintended consequences, and I think it's important for us to consider that as we implement. And I think the step-by-step approach is important because it gives people to see what's happening, ask about what's going to happen next, and make plans for the next step. It's not pick up and move. It's this is what we want for you. Can you work with us to get that? How will you work with us to get you there? What will happen once you get there? What's your short-term plan? Are there others who can help you get to where you want to be? I think it really is something that I know it frustrates people because they want it to happen overnight, but the problem has been here for years and years and years. Solution won't come overnight, and change will happen. As we see it already, I can see change in this city. So it's important that we give that implementation enough time to be understood and accepted by those who get affected the most by it.
I will add this. The bigger picture here is to how do we connect with our homeless? And we have a number of agencies to do that. There's a number of success stories of our agencies being able to work with people who don't want to be homeless, and we get them into housing. We don't have enough housing to do it. We don't have enough money to do it. But there is a segment of the homeless that we're working with. They want jobs. We have one that I know of that was hired in one of our departments, and every day he tells me he walks to work and he's thankful to have a job. And I think we overlook the human aspect to this. And how can we make the connection to help people be a part of a productive society so that they have pride in themselves and they have pride in their family and they're able to enjoy what this great country has to offer. Now, not everybody thinks like that. But we should not stereotype the homeless and not think that people want to be like that all the time. Because I ask you, would you want to be there? I wouldn't.
It's an issue that's been going on for years and years. Is there a reason why the city is just now, kind of hammering this and addressing it now in this way?
When you ask that question, you're asking from a negative. It's not just now. We've been working on this for years and years and years. When I started here at the police department after 34 years, started in 1970. The rescue mission and other agencies in the city of Topeka were already working on it. So it's not just now. It's just that the problem has been exacerbated by inflation and a lot of other things that have increased the numbers. So it's not a reactionary effort. It's something that we've been working on. But as things change, as the economy changes, we have to adapt to the surroundings that we have. And money only goes so far. And we have to be able to make our money make its most impact in the community. So it's not just now getting our attention. It's always been there at the attention. If you can look back at other councils and other mayors, they've all addressed this in one way or another.
It is a generational problem. It is a situation as has existed since the beginning of time, since Jesus walked the sands of the Sahara. The homeless have been with us. They were with us when I was growing up as a child in the last century, and I won't tell you when, but they were with us then. We looked at it in a different way, and it's just probably because of a lack of action of what we've done as a society, it has just manifested itself to where we're at today. And it's not just this community. Go look at Lawrence. Go look at Kansas City. Go look at Ottawa. Small communities experience this also, not to this extent, but to an extent that does affect how the city operates.
Back on the Shunga Trail though, Chief, that was by Topeka Park, did that have something to do, because that point when the homeless was gotten rid of out there, that probably was what got this going, am I right?
No, I would agree with what the city manager and the mayor have both said. I could certainly point to things in my 30-year career that have addressed this. This is a long-standing issue. It may be getting a lot more media attention as of late, but I don't think it's a new issue by any stretch of the imagination. Related specifically to that investigation, the suspect was not a member of the unsheltered community, as the investigation found out. But the police department and the sheriff's office, as the mayor said, have a long-standing partnership of collaborations. And so you've seen a lot of those in the past. You will continue to see those. I have no doubt that those will continue in the future. But those things come up related to crime trends and data that we see, and that's how the agencies are both driven. We work collaboratively because you have to be as efficient and effective as you can with the limited resources that we have today. But I would wholeheartedly support what both the city manager and the mayor have said. There have been members of the unsheltered in this community for as long as I have been. But I certainly understand the recent attention, and I do think the problem has grown. And I think it's a lot of what the mayor said. I think he was very insightful in his quick list of societal factors that are beyond just local government to control: inflation and mental health and substance abuse and all of those things. And everybody knows what a layered and complex problem this is. And we're going to continue to work. We're going to stay in the fight. We're going to work together and work towards solutions. And I've always been proud to be a member of this community and this police department because of the support that we have from the city leadership, because of the support and the partnerships we have from other law enforcement agencies, and because of the way the community supports us. And so I sit here today steadfast in that approach. We'll continue to work and do that. But I think it's a complex problem. Didn't get here overnight and probably won't be solved overnight either.
And let's not forget mental health, how mental health plays a role in a lot of this. We don't have enough federal resources. We don't have enough state resources. We don't have enough community resources. The resources that we have are doing the best they can to address the mental health needs of everyone, But a lot of what we're faced with really has its roots in mental health and people needing help. And it's not just today. These things start when you're born. These things, you have a school system here that does a program that I have not heard about in any other school. They screen students as they come in. So they try and identify it. So mental health plays a big role in homeless and other dysfunctions of people that don't want to be dysfunctional.
Well, I think you can speak to that.
Here's what I know. They are going through the interview process right now. Part of their assignment in that group, in fact, I had discussion with our city attorney the other day, who was telling me about the process and some of the interviews she's gone through, which is not open for prime time yet. But what they're trying to find in these interviews are trends, suggestions, and that's just one part of what the group is doing, so.
Chief, things maybe for all of you, but especially how will some of these changes that will be implemented, how will that affect the officers out on the street? Is it going to have another layer of duties, responsibilities, because they're already extremely busy responding to all kinds of different things all day long? How's that going to affect them? How are they feeling about this?
City ordinance enforcement is pretty much a daily activity for the officers across the spectrum. So from that standpoint, it's going to be a continuation of other city ordinance enforcement that we do in between calls. But it is a busy time, and there are a lot of things that they're working on. But the brave men and women of the police department are always ready and willing to answer the call. Certainly, we do not make policy. We have the support of the governing body, and so we reciprocate that support. But our job is a little simpler piece when it comes to this complex problem. I mean, our job is the enforcement of the city ordinances that are passed by the governing body and the elected representatives. And so I don't have any doubt that the police department will continue to enforce this new ordinance as the public education piece and the timeframes are more clarified as we move forward. As we do city ordinances every day, on every shift in every neighborhood across the city. So we're willing to meet that challenge. I think there is some expectation that has to be understood that this is just a city ordinance misdemeanor violation, and we will continue our normal protocol. That is the protocol of police departments across the entire country as far as prioritization of the services. In other words, if it's a priority 1 level call, that will be the first one that we respond to, and then we'll work through those. But that's certainly also a matter of routine business for us, and nothing that we can't handle. I'm very proud of the work that we do here, and I'm very proud of the community's support of that work.
Quick follow-up question. Have you been able to educate those who are homeless to let them know what's going to be taking place shortly, and so that they don't have to feel concern of being maybe caught up in a crackdown on some of the activity? How do you work with the people who are homeless so that you maintain a good relationship?
Well, that's an ongoing process, and work goes into that like it does any relationship. Our behavioral health unit is out working and developing rapport with subjects in the unsheltered community and also in the mental health community on a daily basis. I mean, that's their primary assignment, and that's their primary call load for service. So we will continue to do those efforts. We continue to educate them, and it's been a thing that's been in place for several years here. I think the city manager and the mayor both touched on it, making the education point. The focus is on this ordinance right now because this is the new piece, but the education pieces that the BHU does is about all of the services that there are in the capital city, both in the city and in other partner agencies. And I think so the education piece that I look at goes on a lot broader view as far as drug treatment, as far as mental health services, as far as family guidance services. I mean, it's a very layered, complex problem, whether you're in a house or whether you're not in a house, as far as when you have mental health and you have substance abuse and all those problems. So those are ongoing conversations. The BHU does a fantastic job of developing relationships specific to the unsheltered community. I think there is a certain amount of concern and trepidation, but that's just the way it is whenever there's any kind of change. So we'll move that together. We'll keep the open lines of communication going, and I think that's why it's important to have relationships with people before there's a problem. You try to build a relationship in the middle of a problem, not as successful as if you've laid the groundwork for several years. And BHU has been out in the community and the unsheltered community specifically for a number of years.
I will add this. Topeka is far ahead of some other major cities in our state. when it comes to what they have embedded in their department to help with this issue and the resources we have in other departments. They are light years ahead of some of the other major cities in this state. And that's because of good leadership.
And excellent reporting.
Yeah. I'd just like to wrap up with one last thing and say, hey, everybody be safe out there on Halloween tonight. Let's make good choices. Let's look out for each other. Let's look out for the little kids that are out trick-or-treating. Let's look out for the parents that are watching the little kids out trick-or-treating. Let's have a safe and good Halloween. That's the message that the chief of police would like to present right now is let's make good choices and let's have a good and safe Halloween in the capital city.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending, appreciate it. Get your candy.